How a Four-Stroke Engine Starts by Hugh Steinman. A four-stroke engine is a very complex machine. The mechanic process of a four-stroke engine at its simplest form is a piston moving up and down, and this up and down motion turns a shaft that turns the engine. The engine turns extremely fast, so very precise timing is needed for an engine to work best. To accomplish this, a four-stroke engine is divided into 4 different repeating steps or strokes, hence its name. The first stroke, the intake stroke, is when the piston is moving down and the inlet valve opens up, and using the suction from this downward motion, the piston sucks air and fuel into the cylinder. The second stroke, the compression stroke, is when the inlet valve closes and the piston moves up and compresses the fuel and air mixture, which heats it up. The third stroke, the power stroke, is when the spark plug produces an electric spark that ignites the fuel, which combusts and forces the piston down. The spark plugs are activated by the distributor, which consists of a rotating arm with a contact on it that touches another contact which is connected to the spark plugs. The fourth stroke, the exhaust stroke, is when the exhaust valve opens and the piston's upward motion forces out the exhaust. Next, the piston moves down again and all 4 strokes are repeated. A 4-stroke engine is typically 4 or more of these cylinders going through these steps, and the combined power of all 4 of these cylinders turns the crankshaft, which is where the engine's power is routed. The crankshaft is connected to the camshaft, which via a timing belt opens the intake and exhaust valves at the right times. The camshaft is also connected to the distributor, so the spark plugs ignite at the right times as well. Attached to the crankshaft is the flywheel, and this massive gear is instrumental in the process of starting the engine. When you first start a car engine, a hefty electric current is used to power the starter motor, but you cannot run such a strong current through a small key or button ignition. When you first turn the key or push the button, it sends a current to a solenoid. The solenoid is made up of 2 contacts that will open the circuit to the starter motor when they're connected. The current from the key or button is used to form an electromagnetic coil that pulls a connecting rod over the 2 contacts, which will open the circuit and the starter motor will begin to turn. The starter motor is a large motor that spins a small gear that spins the flywheel. When the engine begins working without the starter motor, the flywheel will begin turning very fast and the small gear will need to disengage from the flywheel. Because of this, the small gear is mobile on the starter motor's shaft. The shaft has grooves on it, so when the current from the solenoid turns the starter motor's shaft, it forces the small gear outward and it connects with the flywheel and turns it. Likewise, when the 4-stroke process begins and the flywheel is spinning on its own, it will be spinning much faster than the starter motor shaft, so this will push the small gear back down the starter motor shaft and it will disengage from the flywheel. After this, the engine is completely started. Starter motor mechanisms have been used since the early 1900s and are still being used today. However, with climate change becoming a large issue, electric cars will soon phase out gas engines. Electric cars are much simpler than gas engine cars, with most of their mechanics being a 1 or more electric motors connected to the wheels of the car. Starter motors are not required for these cars, so they are beginning to become obsolete to make way for the future. Thank you for watching.